Testing, 1, 2. Check, 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 1, 2, check.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. If I could ask members of council to take their seat, we'll start the meeting in just one moment. On va commencer la réunion dans une minute.
We'll be starting in 1 minute.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Ottawa City Council meeting for December 11th, 2013. Bienvenue à la réunion du Conseil municipal pour la ville d'Ottawa pour le 11 décembre. For those who are able to, please stand for prayer and the singing of our national anthem. Almighty God, let us work together to serve all our people. Dieu Tout-Puissant, aidez-nous à travailler ensemble afin de bien servir nos citoyens. We have some very special guests who are with us here today from Councillor Tim Tierney's ward, and I'd ask the councillor to introduce those individuals who will be singing our national anthem.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'm very proud. Please join me in a warm welcome for the Angel Light Choir from John Paul II Catholic School in Pineview under the direction of Miss Featherston. If this Angel Light Choir looks familiar, it's because they opened up the 67s game last Sunday. So they're a serious, seasoned group of singers. These students, ranging from grades 3 through 6, are joined by Principal Cruikshank and will be performing their rendition of Canada's national anthem.
Well, what a wonderful rendition of O Canada from John Paul II School in Councillor Tierney's ward. Thank you very, very much for singing for us today in our last meeting of 2013. At this time in our agenda, it's our opportunity to honor an individual with the Mayor's City Builder Award. And I'd ask Karen Secord to join me at the front, please, along with her City Councillor, Catherine Hobbs. Welcome, Ms. Secord. Councillor Hobbs. Karen Secord does important work for the Parkdale Food Centre, which operates in Mechanicsville. Working with local vendors and produce stores, Ms. Secord solicits donations of fresh produce and meat for the food bank. Madame Secord fait un travail in...
Working with local vendors and produce stores, Ms. Secord solicits donations of fresh produce and meats for the food bank.
Lucky to have food banks with generous donors in Ottawa, but fresh food can be difficult to come by for those who need the food bank services. But thanks to Ms. Secord, those who visit the food bank know that they can get not just the ingredients for a meal, but a nutritious one. If her work stopped at promoting the food bank and increasing the number of people who donate to it, Ms. Secord would be commendable. But she reaches out further to actively engage those for whom healthy nutritional choices are not easy to come by. To that end, she's gotten several local chefs to provide cooking classes, and I had the opportunity to attend one of those with Councillor Hobbs, to those at the nearby shelter so that they can learn how to make healthy but inexpensive crock-pot meals. And she's produced some of the local she has used some of the local produce donations to provide snacks for the local after-school program that is largely populated by children who live in the shelter. Madame Secord réussit également.
Mrs. Secord also can obtain snacks for after-school programs that is largely populated by children who live in the shelter.
No snack at all, they now have an apple or an orange each day because of Ms. Secord's dogged determination to instill the value of nutrition. There are other examples of Ms. Secord's willingness to help those in need, such as the Christmas baking classes she organized for those who use the food bank. But they're just more evidence of Ms. Secord's generous spirit and her standing as an invaluable asset to her community and somebody deserving of our thanks. Ms. Secord, congratulations on receiving this City Builder Award, and I want to thank also the students from Hilson School who brought all sorts of donations for the food center. They're right here, and Councillor Hobbs helped supplement that as well. What an appropriate time, as you're being recognized for the work you do at the food bank, that we have these young people showing their generosity of spirit and their sense of giving at this very special time of the year. Congratulations, and keep up the great work.
Thank you very, very much. It's kind of bittersweet to be standing here today when yesterday I stood at a food bank that had more people coming in hungry than we've ever seen in 27 years. So this isn't really a celebration because it's something that we all need to look at, that food banks are not the solution to this problem. The solution to this problem probably sits around this table here. So I have a quote. Yesterday was the International Day of Human Rights. And of course, having food, real food, not things in boxes or cans, but real food is a human right. And Nelson Mandela, I'm going to quote him, if you don't mind, if you can hang with me for a minute. Overcoming poverty is not a task of charity, it is an act of justice. Like slavery and apartheid, poverty is not natural. It is man-made, and it can be overcome and eradicated by the actions of human beings. Sometimes it falls on a generation to be great. You can be that generation. Let your greatness blossom. So what I would challenge all of you to do, and especially the city councilors here, is to go to your local food bank and don't put cans on the shelf, but sit and talk to those people who are using the food bank. They're nurses, they're project managers, they're social workers. They're not what we think. Talk to them and ask them why it is you're there and what you need, because we're not doing a very good job. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karen, and I know your family members are with you here today, and we welcome them to City Hall as well. I'd now ask our outgoing Auditor General, Alain Lalonde, to come forward, along with the Chair and the Vice Chair of the Audit Committee, Councillors Shirelli and Hubley, as we'd like to a small presentation to Alain for his great tenure with the City of Ottawa. Bienvenue, Monsieur Lalonde, Councillors Hubley and Shirelli. Alain Lalonde began his role as the City's Auditor General on July 14, 2004, and will serve his last day in the role on December 31st of this month. He held a series of positions at Treasury Board Secretariat and then moved on to the National Capital Commission, where he was appointed to a number of senior posts, including Chief Financial Planning and Reporting and Chief Management Audit. He also served as Associate Director of Election Financing with Elections Canada. At the time of his appointment as Auditor General of the City of Ottawa, the first one for our city, Mr. Lalonde was Auditor General for the City of Gatineau. Au moment de sa nomination à titre
At the time of his appointment as Auditor General of the City of Ottawa, Mr. Lalonde was Auditor General of the City of Gatineau.
As a result of his exceptional work and commitment to the public, Mr. Lalonde was awarded the Queen Elizabeth II Jubilee Medal. I know I speak on behalf of all of my council colleagues when I say this, that we are very grateful, Alain, for the work that you have done here at the City of Ottawa. Je me fais le porte-parole de mes...
I know I speak on behalf of my council colleagues when I say this. We are very grateful for the work Mr. Lalonde has done here at the City of Ottawa.
He was always hardworking and diligent and had the best interests of the city at heart. As the city's very first Auditor General, Mr. Lalonde did a significant amount of work in establishing the Office of Auditor General here at the City of Ottawa, and he will be certainly missed. I'd like to take this opportunity to wish the best of luck to Ken Hughes, who has been appointed the city's second Auditor General, and I acknowledge the work of the members of the Auditor General hiring panel. Alain, on behalf of all of us at the City of Ottawa and my colleagues on City Council, thank you for your outstanding work and for your dedication and commitment to the City of Ottawa. There's always with Auditors General a love-hate relationship, because there are times when we get our knuckles rapped, rightly so, as does management, but at the end of the day, you act as a catalyst to prod us to make better decisions, to ensure that we're respecting the taxpayers' dollars, and to follow up on what we've committed to you. And over your tenure at the City of Ottawa, you've done just that. And on behalf of my colleagues on City Council, we'd like to thank you for your service. We had a small reception upstairs. I got a chance to meet your wife, and your team is with you here today. And we wish you the very best in the next challenge that you embark on in your career. Félicitations. Merci pour votre bon travail.
All the best.
Merci, Monsieur le Maire. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Councillor Hubley and Councillor Chirelli, the Chair and the Vice Chair. First, I would like to thank Council for establishing that position in 2003. And as the Mayor mentioned, I was the first Auditor General in 2004. But more importantly, I think that function was established for the citizen of Ottawa. And I really want to thank each member of Council for their support and collaboration over the years. That was really important for us. Second, I would like to thank the management team, the city manager, Mr. Kanakis, Ms. Shippers, for their support, and also the discussion we had. We spent many hours, I spent many hours in Ken's office talking on different things, talking about different issues, getting advice, discussing management or discussing anything, and sometimes we put a few minutes in work, but most of the issues were about in general in life, so that was really appreciated, and thank you very much. Finally, I would like to thank my colleagues. When you join a city, I came from the federal government, I didn't know what to expect, and I was fortunate to work with a great bunch of people. They're good, they're solid, I learned a lot from them. Some of them left. I'm thinking about Dan Pressey. But today we have Suzanne Bertrand, Louise Proulx, Lise Renaud, and Henry Kostick. These are fantastic people to work with, and I learned a lot from them. So I want to thank them very much for what they did for us. Merci beaucoup. C'était une très belle expérience.
Thank you. It was a great experience. I remember that the Council should be thanked for its support. And I'd also like to thank the City Director, Kent, Ms. Sheppers, Mr. Kanalakis, for all these hours that we spent together. Their office doors were always open. And thank you again. And I'd also like to thank my colleagues, Ray, Suzanne, Louise, and Dan. They are very good people, and their work is very difficult. And the majority of the success is thanks to you.
Well, thank you again, Alain, and also thank you to the students from Hilson for being with us and their generosity in donating to the Food Center. Madam Deputy Clerk, roll call, please.
Conseiller Manette.
Present.
Councillor Blois.
Here.
Councillor Harder. Here. Councillor Wilkinson.
Present.
Councillor El-Shantiri.
Present.
Councillor Caudry.
Present.
Councillor Taylor.
Here.
Councillor Shirelli.
Here.
Councillor Eglai.
Here.
Councillor Deans. Here. Councillor Tierney.
Présent.
Conseiller Fleury.
Ici.
Councillor Clark.
Here.
Councillor Holmes.
Here.
Councillor Hobbs.
Here.
Councillor McCrae.
Here.
Councillor Chernyshenko.
Present.
Councillor Hume. Councillor Blais.
Present.
Councillor Thompson.
Present.
Councillor Moffat.
Here.
Conseiller DeRoche.
Here.
Councillor Hubley.
Here.
Mayor Watson.
Présent.
Le quorum est atteint, Monsieur le maire.
Merci.
You have the quorum?
The minutes, le 26 novembre 2013, and the regular meeting of 27th of November 2013. Carried. Declarations of interest, including those originally arising from prior meetings. Councillor Caudry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And I, Councillor Shad Kadri, declare a potential direct pecuniary interest on Council Agenda 67, Item 10, zoning 33 John Wood Street, and part of west half of Lot 26, Concession 12, and the corresponding bylaw listed as Item 1 under Motion to Introduce Bylaws, as my wife and I purchased a property on Joseph Circle backing onto the subject property at 33 John Wood Street. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Caudry. Are there any other conflicts? Communications as printed. Regrets. Councillor Hume is advised he'll be absent from the council meeting of the 11th of December. Councillor Councillor Eli El-Shantiri has a motion with respect to going in camera.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, moved by myself, second by Councillor DeRoche, whereas the city manager employment contract was extended by council on January 26, 2011, and whereas the term of the contract is set to expire on March 31, 2014, therefore be it resolved that council waive the rules of procedure to receive a briefing with respect to the city manager.
Office, so just stop there, just add the item.
Okay. Waive the rule procedure to receive a briefing with respect to the city manager employment contract to the urgency of this matter.
So this is adding the item to the agenda in camera. All those in favor? Carried.
Carried.
Thank you. Motion to introduce reports. Councillor Blais and Hubley, please.
That the report from the city clerk and solicitor entitled Status Update Council Inquiries and Motions for the period ending 6 December 2013, Agricultural and Rural Affairs Committee Report 37, Finance and Economic Development Committee Report 39, Planning Committee Report 61A, and Transportation Committee Report 34 be received and considered, and that the rules of procedure be suspended to receive and consider Planning Committee Report 62 because of the urgency of the items contained in the report.
Carried. City Clerk and Solicitor, Status Update, Council Inquiries and Motions for the period ending 6th of December, received. Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee, Rapport 37, Zoning 190 David Manchester Road. Carried. Support for feed and tariff program applications for on-farm biogas project. Carried. Finance and Economic Development Committee Report 39, le rapport 39 de la Comité de Développement Économique et Finances, World Exchange Plaza Amendment to Development Agreement.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Just like to comment, to commend both the British Columbia Investment Management Corporation and the Landmark Movie Distribution Company to continue working together to try and maintain movie theater experience in the World Exchange Plaza, and how important that is for the residents of downtown. Thanks.
Okay, well said. Thank you. Councillor Fleury, did you want to add something on this?
Yes, I'm sorry, I thought the item was going to be held, but how important that movie is for the downtown, especially after the closure of the Rideau Center one. It's not just the day use in the front plaza, but it's also the night entertainment out of that location. That's important. Thank you.
Great. So on the report as presented, carried. Thank you. Item number 5, public engagement strategy. We do have a technical amendment by Councillor Shirelli, seconded by Councillor Chernachenko. We can present this now, the motion, and see if there's discussion on it. Councillor Shirelli.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Chernachenko, that when the city conducts public consultations, members of council are provided with an electronic copy of the full submissions from the public and not simply staff summaries of the comments received upon request by a member.
Okay, so is that up on the screen? Does anyone wish to speak to the motion on Councillor Shirelli and Chernachenko's motion? Carried. And on the main report as amended? Carried. Thank you. Item number 6, Innovation Center at Bayview Yards Concept and Governance Model. Carried. Thank you. Item number 7, Ottawa Lions Track and Field Club, loan repayment. Carried. Item number 8, Airport Parkway Pedestrian Cycling Bridge update. Carried. Item number 9, Scott Street self-supporting hydro poles. Carried. Item number 10, Planning Committee Report number 62, zoning 33 John Wood Street and part of the west half of Lot 26, Concession 12. Councillor Kadri has removed himself from the council table on the report. Carried. Zoning 117, 119, 121, 123, 225, 273, 275, and part of 279 Meadow Breeze Drive, 2 Glenrill Place, and 34 Summit View Drive, and part of 5301 Old Richmond Road. Carried. The bulk consent agenda. Does anyone wish to remove anything from the bulk consent agenda? No. On the bulk consent agenda as presented? Carried. Councillor Blais and Hubley, motion to adopt reports, please. Page 23 of our report.
That the report from the City Clerk and Solicitor entitled Status Update, Council Inquiries and Motions for the period ending 6 December 2013, Agricultural and Rural Affairs Committee Report 37, Finance and Economic Development Committee Report 39, Planning Committee Reports 61A and 62, and Transportation Committee Report 34 be received and considered and adopted as amended.
Carried. Motions of which have been previously given, or sorry, motions of which notice has been previously given. Councillor Fleury, seconded by Councillor Moffat, with respect to BIAs. Councillor Fleury, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Maire.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Is happening because in the eastern portion of Rideau Street, east of King Edward, there's no BIA between the Cummings Bridge and King Edward Avenue. And what we've realized is that there's a couple of groups that are interested in the zone, and there wasn't a policy on how to deal with it. So we're bringing forward this motion, asking staff to establish a process to, when there's interest in expansion or there's interest in a zone where there's no current BIAs, and also the process in establishing which groups should be allocated that zone. So would you wish for me to read the therefore be it resolved?
I think everyone has it. It is on the screen. So maybe you might want to just do the last two paragraphs.
Yes. So therefore, be it resolved that the Economic Development and Innovation Department be directed to work with these three groups to review the BIA boundaries in the area and to assess different options, including the formation of a third BIA and the expansion or alteration of the boundaries of one or more of the existing BIAs. Be it further resolved that the Economic Development and Innovation Department present recommendations for the formation, expansion, or change in the boundaries for Downtown Rideau BIA, Byward Market BIA, Rideau Street, and Sandy Hill in Q1 2015 following the end of the terms for the local boards.
Okay, I think Councillor Shirelli would like to speak on this.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a couple of questions about this. Doesn't the Act put the onus of the Okay.
Sorry, Councillor.
All right. Doesn't the Act put the onus on the businesses to form a BIA? And furthermore, doesn't it put the onus on the BIA to make an expansion attempt if it chooses to?
Mr. Mayor, with regards to the establishment of the BIA, it is the clerk's statutory responsibility to poll the businesses at that point.
Right, but it has to come from the businesses. Like, this is not actually a this is a self-funded body. It's funded by the businesses, right?
That is correct.
Okay, and if the businesses in a BIA choose to expand by, for example, one street, what business is it of the cities to try to interject into that and influence that decision?
Well, Mr. Mayor, aside from the procedure of polling them, it remains the city's overall responsibility under the legislation to have governance responsibility for all of its local boards, as well as their governance, their accountability and transparency, and their financial sustainability.
Okay, but the question was, if a BIA decides to expand, that it wants to attempt to expand by one street, for example, is it not the decision of those businesses on that street when polled by the clerk whether they will be part of that expansion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
So I think the strength of a BIA is that it is independent of the city to as great an extent as it can be. And, you know, I wouldn't want to start interfering in that process because then we become responsible for it as well. You know, I have one BIA in my ward. I hoped we were going to have two, and maybe we will at some point, but I've always thought that that would be the decision of the businesses in the area. I've seen BIAs not happen because city staff have gotten involved and made recommendations about what the constitution or construction of the BIA should be, and I think that's really unfortunate. So what exactly is the value of removing some of the independent decision there? That's my question. I think right now we have 18 BIAs that are formed. They're formed autonomously and independently. The city's conducted the polling function. But beyond that, for staff to get involved in trying to set controversial decisions like what boundaries should be, which is the most controversial decision in the formation of a BIA, I think it puts us in danger of removing the independence of those businesses that are trying to gain their own voice and their own independent input into both city decisions and decisions around beautification and economic development in their area.
Okay, thank you. Councillor El-Shantiri, please.
Mr. Mayor, if we can have our staff answer Councillor Chirali's request before I ask my question, or I'm going to ask the same question basically, but go ahead, answer the question for Councillor Chirali.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Chirali, we are not forcing any of the businesses to form a BIA or be part of an existing BIA. We are in a situation where we have two different options in front of us, where a new group has come up looking at the same geographic region to create a new BIA, as well as an existing BIA which is also has been thinking about expanding to cover that same region. And through this motion, we were going to work with the businesses in the said area to make sure that they understand the value that they are going to get with either joining an existing BIA or being part of a new BIA. And the role will strictly be one of facilitation and not one of actually forcing any of the businesses to go one way or the other.
Okay, anything else, Councillor?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Now, I think what's missing out of this conversation, I think legal need to step in here, because once we form a BIA and you have the catchment area of the BIA, and if you have the 75% of the businesses agree to be on that BIA, that means then you have no other choices but to be in that area. Is that correct? And that's why the city got involved in establishing the boundary of those BIAs. Is that correct, Mr. O'Connor?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
So, and for that reason, when this motion came along to expand the BIA area, it's important for City Council to approve that before you go to the businesses, whether they agree to be in that catchment area or not. And that, I think that should be the answer, Mr. O'Connor. Is that correct?
That is correct also, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor El Shantir is our rep on the Council of BIA, so I appreciate that clarification. Councillor Monette, s'il vous plaît.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Looking at the motion, I mean, from what I read in the motion, Economic Development and Innovation Department be directed to work with these three groups to review the BIA boundaries in the area and assess different options, including formation of a third BIA and the expansion or alteration of boundaries. And if you look at the final be it further resolved is that after the consultation is done, then that will be presented to the BIA. At that time, the BIA would come back and state if they were interested or not. Isn't that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor.
I don't see any issues at all with this, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Councillor Chernyshenko, please.
Yes, thank you. I guess like a number of us, I've been through the situation of a group of business and landowners, in this case in Old Ottawa South, being interested in forming a BIA and having sort of had several false starts now. A number of issues come up that I want to make sure that our staff aren't crossing over the line and we aren't. A key one is that the boundaries be in the best interest of a particular zone, because what became quite clear, we frequently had people say, well, the Glebe BIA should just expand and go over the bridge and incorporate Old Ottawa South. And fortunately, I think we had both sides, Old Ottawa South businesses saying, yes, but we're probably going to be the poor cousin and really not get a lot of attention to a much bigger Glebe, especially with Lansdowne now being incorporated into the Glebe. And we had Glebe BIA saying, you know, we actually don't think that's good for you, because we won't give you the attention you deserve. So in the end, unfortunately, I would say the Old Ottawa South campaign did not work this time. We'll try again. But that really highlighted the importance of the zone really be to the benefit of all the parties. So by way of question, I assume you know and understand this, and we'll make that clear to them and keep that in mind.
Through you, Mayor, yes, and exactly that. And when we were speaking with the province on this particular issue, the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, because it is quite unique, they said, just because you could create a BIA doesn't mean that you should create it unless it's in the best interest of the businesses. So this motion would provide the opportunity for us to do that analysis to make sure the boundaries are in the best interest of the businesses.
Thank you, because I feel it's very important that while we as city staff and as councillors draw attention to businesses and landowners in an area of the potential benefits of BIA, we'd be very honest about pros, cons, costs, benefits, money available to them, grants available to them, but ultimately they're paying that levy, and they need to make that decision themselves. Yeah, thank you.
Right, thanks, Councillor. Councillor Aguilar, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question for staff. Was the Council of BIAs, are they aware of this motion and were they consulted? And if so, do they support this initiative or do they not?
Through you, Mayor, this particular issue is not one that we would normally take to a COBIA because it's not a BIA-wide issue. It's specific to a couple of the BIAs. We did speak with the chairs of the board of both of the BIAs involved and the chair of the steering committee, and they are aware of this and see this as a way for us to go forward in a fair manner.
In terms of whether it's a BIA-wide issue, does this not set we're doing it a little bit differently here, are we not? Does this not set some sort of a precedent going forward for other areas within the city?
No, Mr. Mayor, I do not believe so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Aguilar. To wrap up, Councillor Fleury. Oh, sorry, Councillor Clark.
Well, my only concern about the BIAs is the fact that sometimes they want to expand into, for example, an office building, which wouldn't benefit from the marketing efforts of the BIAs in their mind. And since it's one owner, the 3/4 is easy to get. If you just expand, you already got 3/4. So is that 3/4 of the people that are potentially going to be added, or 3/4 of the existing plus the expansion? They don't know. What do I know?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, 3/4 of the existing businesses, as well as 3/4 of the new area that is going to be added to the BIA.
Well, that sort of makes it a little easier to swallow this pill. My concern about expanding BIAs is just that it has to be done with eyes open, and it seems to me that when we're dealing with additional levies to people, that it's important they understand what the economic consequences are. I hope that they're thoroughly laid out when they go to vote, whether they're on that 3/4 or not, what the economic consequences are for the ones they're trying to bring in, so that they can vote intelligently, something like we do around this table. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak before Councillor Fleury wraps up? Councillor Harder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You notice I was hesitating to put my hand up or to press the button. I'm just very uncomfortable with this. And I am, because we have a process which is quite rigid, and every other BIA, anyone that I know with the Bells Corners one, definitely the Barrhaven BIA, really had to jump through hoops and follow stringent rules and everything. It wasn't easy. And I see this as, it certainly isn't queue jumping or anything, but it's a different process that seems to be set up particularly for a couple of BIAs, and I don't know that we would do the same for everyone, give the same consideration for all of them. And that's where we stand strong, is when we have rules that apply to everyone that's in the particular pond, if you will, which is the BIA, quite large group of organizations now. And I remember when the Barrhaven BIA was trying to expand its boundaries, and it was very, very difficult, and it was onerous as well, and it cost them quite a bit of money and a lot of time. And so this doesn't sit well with me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Fleury.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate all the interest and the questions related to this one. Maybe I can jump in and explain some context. So there's currently a BIA between Sussex to King Edward along Rideau Street. Then there's a gap, there's no BIA, and then east of the bridge, when you get into Vanier, there's the Vanier BIA. We've invested on Rideau Street, and the businesses have come together and are approached by different interest groups to form a BIA in that zone. So what we're asking really is, at this point, for staff to provide assistance to these individual businesses in having the discussion with the three partners. But in the end, unless I'm wrong in the motion, but the idea would be that the acceptance or the votes from businesses would be exactly the same. So we're not getting involved in the voting process. That will still be as what it would be typically for the formation or the expansion of a BIA. This is only to support that zone, individual businesses, in the decision process. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Okay, just on this is really, when I saw this motion, I saw it as a way for our Department of Economic Development and Innovation to facilitate a situation between three different groups here. We're not going to micromanage the BIAs. I think the very fact that we set up the Council of BIAs, and it's now been really the leadership has been taken over by the BIAs themselves, show that we want them to operate at arm's length. But this is simply a particular situation in an area where there seems to be some overlapping and some gaps, and we want to try to be helpful on that front. So on the motion, carried. Yeas and nays. Councillor Shirelli has called yeas and nays on the Fleury-Moffat motion.
Councillor Chernushenko?
Yes.
Councillor Hume? Councillor Clark? Councillor Tierney?
No.
Siamonette?
Oui.
Councillor McCrae?
Yes.
Councillor Deans?
No.
Councillor Harder?
No.
Councillor Hubley?
No.
Councillor El-Shantiri?
Yes.
Councillor Holmes?
Yes.
Councillor Blois?
Yes.
Councillor Shirelli?
No.
Councillor Thompson?
Yes.
Monsieur DeRoche?
Yes.
Councillor Caudry?
Yes.
Councillor Moffat?
Yes.
Councillor Taylor?
Yes.
Conseiller Blais?
Oui.
Councillor Wilkinson?
Yes.
Conseiller Fleury?
Oui.
Councillor Hobbs?
Yes.
Councillor Egli?
No.
Mayor Watson?
Yes.
17 yeas, 6 nays.
Okay, thank you. Motion carried. Next is a motion by Councillor Thompson. I'll second it since Councillor Hume is not here. Councillor Thompson, if you'd like to introduce it, please.
Yes, I think it's just a reappointment or appointment, whereas the Ontario Good Roads Association, OGRA, and Rural Ontario Municipal Association, ROMA, Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and Association Française des Municipalités de l'Ontario, all require motion on an annual basis confirming the city's representative on their organizations. And so this is just confirming those appointments.
I just heard Councillor Thompson speak French there. Félicitations. So our reps as presented, this is required every year by the different organizations. Carried?
Carried.
Thank you. Motions requiring suspension of the rules of procedure. Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Fleury. Councillor Taylor on Bayshore Shopping Centre.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And this motion's first on suspension of the rules that we consider this.
On suspension. Carried.
Thank you very much. And the motion is with regard to the construction of Bayshore Shopping Centre and their need to be granted a small bylaw exemption on the noise bylaw. Although the time period of the extension itself is long, it runs from the 1st of January 2014 into 2015. The actual window of the time of day each day is relatively short. They'd like to start their noisy construction process 2 hours earlier than normal at 5 a.m. rather than 7 a.m. They're doing so to try to minimize the disruption to local traffic, local transit, and the operation of the facility itself. Local residents, obviously, in this area have been undergoing a lot of change and renewal over the past year with the mall itself and the surrounding Acora Village property all doing renewal. So they have been supportive, and the partners, the mall and the local Acora community as well, and Fergus Lee have all been really stepped up to help manage the impact of that construction process. So they're seeking this waiver, and I'm supportive of it.
Okay, so it's moved by Councillor Taylor, appuyé par Conseiller Fleury.
Supported by Councillor Fleury.
Next item requiring suspension of the rules, Councillor Moffat, seconded by Councillor Caudry. Councillor Moffat, please.
Thank you. I actually have 3 motions here today, and
so if you want to deal with them all 3,
yeah, they're all related. So
yeah.
we obviously have to pass each one individually, but the point is that there is 3. They're all related to the court and committee of revision.
All right. So on suspension of the rules first on all 3, carried. Councillor Moffat.
All right. So I don't know if there's so the first one on the screen. Again, all these stem from the court revision, committee revision that we met when it met in October, and there was issues that were brought forward. One of them was specifically about a decision made by council in April that we missed something. The other two were brought specific to the Manotick core area local improvement. The one that you see on the screen, it speaks to properties that are currently exempt from taxes, and we're looking to have them exempt further from the local improvement. Now, there's 5 properties listed on this. They're all inside the Manotick core area local improvement area. We did look at every single local improvement across the city to determine if other tax-exempt properties did exist in other local improvement areas. They don't. So the 5 that are listed here are the only tax-exempt properties subject to any local improvement citywide. So the motion is therefore be it resolved that council waive the collection of special assessment charges in respect to the properties noted below in the Manotick core area sanitary sewer local improvement. The properties listed, it's the Manotick Legion, the Manotick United Church, the St. James Anglican Church, the Knox Presbyterian Church, and Watson's Mill. Be it further resolved that the allocation of the amounts waived pursuant to this motion be allocated to the sewer reserve through the annual capital close and adjustments report.
Okay, so we're on the first one. Questions and comments, Councillor Wilkinson.
I'd like to ask some questions of staff, Mr. Mayor. Normally, when you're paying for servicing, it's not a tax, it's a levy. Do we normally, in other times, have we ever waived non-profit groups like this from paying for the sewer or water put on their street?
Mr. Mayor, I think it's fair to say that this issue has never come up before this council post-amalgamation before. So the answer to the council's question is no, but the issue has not been addressed by any council since 2000.
Well, some of you were around before on the region of things. Did the region exempt people when there was local improvements, do you know?
Madam, Mr. Mayor, the region did not do local improvements, and that's where I come from, and I can't speak to the practice of the area municipalities.
Yeah, now, I know we did them in Canada, but I'm not sure if there were any non-profits were involved. Everybody had to pay at that time. As the problem of it is, it's not, I think saying it's a tax, it's not a tax. It's actually paying for a service they're getting, and that's why they pay the water charge and the sewer charge. And I don't know whether we're creating a precedence on this. I don't know, is staff supporting this, doing this, or what's the staff's position on it?
Mr. Mayor, this is not unusual for council to face these decisions from time to time. Staff's position on this in specific incident or these specific properties is, from legal's perspective and from finance, we would be able to continue and collect these charges. However, it would be up to council to make a public policy decision with whether or not they wanted to exempt them for the reasons given.
Well, you know, these are ones that were the ones that were delayed before they were dealt with, I believe. Is that the case?
And not in this particular instance, Mr. Mayor. This is a 2009 local improvement, so these are not in the category of the ones that I would say were delayed.
And did these particular properties actually sign the petition asking for the services?
Mr. Mayor, I haven't gone through the petition, so to say that all of them signed, I would not want to say, but certainly I know that some of them on this list had.
If we pass this motion today, are they making a policy that anytime we do local improvements, that areas that are non-profit would not have to pay the local improvement charge? Because that puts quite a burden on the city in the future.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor,
is that a question, Councillor?
Yeah, it's a question.
Mr. Mark?
Mr. Mayor, this is a specific decision that's being made by council on a specific set of local improvements. It of course is not binding on future council.
Because, yeah, it should really be a notice motion, but the problem I have is we've been doing some work with the Community Lands Corporation we have, and we've sold land to churches, and they are paying a cost for the land, which includes the cost of putting in the water and sewer in front of their property. So every church or building that buys land in the urban area is actually paying these charges for the sewer and water in front because it's part of the land costs when they pay. And I know it's always difficult when you come behind. It is difficult, and I know it's been waived before because I know of some cases. But so I'm just a little concerned about whether I don't mind these particular ones at this time, But I would like to say that it wouldn't be, that we really need to report back on how we're going to deal with these, with future local improvement plans, because we are going to have, as we get extensions on areas where they don't have water and sewer now, you're going to get this happening again. And this is sort of a on-the-spot new policy development. I don't like doing policies in that way. So I don't know whether, I would prefer, I didn't realize when we waived the rules to put them on, I hadn't seen the motion. I really don't think we should be doing this without having a staff report coming with it on the implications of it, because this is something that really should be going to committee. In fact, I'd be quite willing to put a motion forward that we refer this to the Environment Committee to come back with a report that covers the policy. Does it go to FEDCO? I would motion to refer it to FEDCO. And I guess if they're all related, but it probably has to do the same thing.
Okay, so Councillor, if you want to move a motion, please write it out and bring it to me.
The motion is just to review it to FEDCO.
Councillor Moffat, there's a time sensitivity issue that Councillor Wilkinson. Councillor Wilkinson.
Why is it time sensitive?
No, I'm going to ask Councillor Moffat to explain the time sensitivity, and your mic is on.
So the motions were listed in the procedure memo that we all received last night, which did speak to the time sensitivity. I'll read it out again. The deadline for the owners for the properties involved need to make a decision as to how they're going to pay for their improvements by December 20th. So they've got to decide whether they're going to pay in one lump sum or whether they're going to pay over the installments. So that decision needs to be made by them by December 20th. So if you want to defer, that's fine, but all these groups now have to go and make a decision as to how they're going to pay for something that this would make them not have to pay for.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, then I will include in the motion to extend the date for these properties to make that decision until after it's dealt with by FEDCO, so that I don't want to catch them at a bind. That makes sense. But no, this is an important policy decision, I believe.
So you want our finance department to send out 500 notices to 500 property owners in Manotick between now and December 20th to tell them that the date's going to be later for the charge to be on the 2014 tax bill?
All right. Just a minute. Excuse me, Councillor. We're not going to have Councillor Wilkinson. Mr. Mark, are we able to just notify the not-for-profits listed on the motion for an extended date?
Mr. Mayor, the collection of the amounts once the Committee of Revision has set the rate is an administrative action taken by the city. So yes, it would be within Council's jurisdiction to extend the deadline for those 5 properties.
Okay, so Councillor Wilkinson, if you move your motion, we have other people that want to speak to it. And when I get your motion, I will read it out.
The deadline.
We'll just wait for the referral. We'll take precedence. So if those who want to speak to referral could get on the list, that would be appropriate. And I think both Councillor Moffat's microphone is still on.
Yeah.
And Councillor, who is your seconder? Councillor Wilkinson, who is your seconder? Councillor Shirelli. And Councillor Clark, do you wish to speak to referral or the main item?
Oh, no, on referral.
Okay.
But I want to talk to the topic itself.
All right, well, we're on referral in just a moment.
Got that.
Okay, colleagues, apologize for the delay. We have a motion of referral by Councillor Wilkinson, seconded by Councillor Shirelli, that this issue be referred to the appropriate standing committee and that staff provide a report on the policy implications, and that the deadline for the 5 properties be extended to 30 days after council decision. Well, I think it's the appropriate committee. That this is what the wording is from your motion. It's your motion, Councillor, so I'm assuming you support it. All right, so on referral, Councillor Blois, please. On referral.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question was on the original motion, but referral still applies because it's an explanation of the last further resolve that I think we need to understand before we decide whether to refer or not. And I'm not sure if it's legal or the treasurer that would be able to help us here. The reference that allocation of the amounts waived be allocated to the sewer reserve through the annual capital close and adjustment report. Maybe it's my understanding of how we do the close and the adjustment report, but if we're going to waive an amount, how can that be allocated to the reserve? And my next question is what the impact is on the reserve. I know what the amount is, so can you help me first of all on the first part?
You're waiving the charge to these particular properties. The expenditure still exists. It has to be funded. So that's why it's going to be paid for from city sources. The $101,000 will come from the sewer reserve. There are sufficient funds in the sewer reserve to cover this.
Right. That's a great explanation, by the way, and because I thought the wording sort of flipped it backwards. You're saying we have enough in the sewer reserve, but something has to give, and I think we have a nice...
Sorry, Councillor, I gave you some leeway, but you're going to have to speak to referral now, please.
Okay, well then I'm in favor of referral, Mr. Mayor, because I don't think this should be walked on like this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Blois. Councillor Shirelli on referral.
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, this issue is very much a policy decision the council needs to take, and I think a committee is a place where we contemplate these kinds of policy decisions, and it's the place where we allow the public to come forward and add a little information, color, and opinion to the issue. This forum here at council does not allow us to do that, and I think referral at this time with the extension contained in the motion allows us to do the kind of policy examination we need to do for this kind of thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Clark on referral, please.
I'm voting no to referral because I haven't got my questions answered on the motion.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Eglai on referral, please.
Not sure how to follow that. I'll be voting for referral because I think we need some context. I see how this is going to be funded and what this cost is going to be, but I have to think that if this goes ahead as is without us knowing what the overall, how many potential applicants are out there who may have similar requests, what those costs may be, how we would fund those going forward. I think we need to have all that information. I think it's a citywide policy decision that needs to be made. So it's really for lack of information and how we go path forward, I guess, for other requests that I'm going to be supporting referral.
Thank you. On referral, Councillor Moffat, please.
Obviously, the largest issue that we had was the timeline. Thanks to Mr. Mark for agreeing that we push the timeline for responses, that we can get that notice out to the parties. Clearly the thing here, and you can look at the groups. I mean, Mantic Legion is not exactly in it for the money. Watson's Mill is actually not even doesn't even have plumbing, so they can't even access services if they wanted to. So there's a number of reasons why this is here. I'm happy to come to I assume it's FEDCO. Do we know that?
Well, the motion, as I read it, is the appropriate standing committee.
I don't believe there is an appropriate standing committee. I don't know.
Yeah, if there's some dispute, it'll go to FEDCO.
All right. So, obviously, I'll make sure that our groups here can come and make their case as to why these not-for-profits should get that. I mean, they came and spoke. They took the time. They came and spoke to us. It was just myself and Councillor Cottrey at that time at committee revision. There's only 3 members of council on committee revision, but these groups, they all take their time to come and speak to us. And whether it's Manatee Core, local improvement, the Kemp Park, Leggett Road, they all come and they all speak to us, and we try to resolve those issues as much as possible. Which is why I mentioned that if there was other groups here that were tax exempt, and it's not that I'm aware that a local improvement isn't a tax. The point is that there's a reason why they're tax exempt. I'm just adding the same rationale to why they should be exempt from the local improvement. But again, if I get a chance to speak to this at the appropriate committee, then we'll do that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Moffat. So we have a motion to refer. I'll read it again. It's on, I believe, on the screen that that this issue be referred to the appropriate standing committee and that staff provide a report on the policy implications, and that the deadline for the 5 properties listed in the motion be extended to 30 days after the council decision. On referral, carried. Okay. Next motions requiring suspension of the rule. Are there any others?
They're different.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were. So that one is. The next one is Moffat Caudry on the Manatee Core. Councillor Moffat.
Again, so this is stemming from the committee revision in October. It's about one property in particular, and if I can try to give you the context properly for this, 5565 Dickinson Street is a property it's at the very end of a connection. There's other properties to the south of 5565 that opted out of the local improvement for the purposes that they would require a pump, which would be an extra cost. So they decided that they would just stick with their septic system at that time. 5565 was told at the time that they wouldn't require a pump, so they signed on to the local improvement. It was determined through, and it says in this, so whereas at the time of construction became known that the property could not be serviced by a gravity connection, require pumping, and as a result has opted not to connect, and whereas this information been known at the time, had the information been known at the time of the petition, the owner would have opted out of the petition area, and as a result a sewer would not have been required on Courier east of Dickinson Street, since the property at 5561 Dickinson could have been serviced by the sewer on Dickinson, and whereas the property at 5565 Dickinson is being assessed a charge for $11,640.68 under the Manatee Sanitary Sewer Local Improvement Project, therefore be it resolved that the city assume the local improvement charge for 5565 Dickinson, and be it further resolved that the sewer connection bylaw be amended to include the $11,640.68 charged for the property at 5565 Dickinson Street at the time of connection to the sanitary sewer system. So it's hard to visualize it, but Courier Street and Dickinson Street are perpendicular to each other, and had 5565 Dickinson not opted into local improvement, the sewer system would not have gone either beside or in front of that property, meaning it would not have been assessed. So had they had the proper information, they would have not been assessed, hence the motion before you today. And again, it's the same situation with the December 20th timeline.
So a question to staff. Is staff supportive of this?
Mr. Mayor, yes, we are.
So this is basically, as the last item says, it's charged back to the property if they hook up. Is that correct? In essence, Alain?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. In essence, basically, they're not being assessed under the local improvement, but that charge will remain. That charge will be imposed at the time of connection.
Okay, so this one is different than the last one on this item? Carrie? Okay. All right, and then the third one in this overall committee of revision issue is also by Councillor Moffat, seconded by Councillor Blais. Councillor Moffat, if you could introduce the motion, please.
So I'm just going to read the whole thing. It stems back to a decision made by Council in April 19th or April 10th, 2013, and we missed something. So I'm just trying to fix that here. So whereas the imposition of a special assessment charges for local improvements have been considered by the court committee revision from December 2012 to December 2013, and whereas the approval by council for these works developed over an extended period of time from 2000 to 2010, and whereas given the length of time that it has taken to bring these works to court committee revision, council provided for a dispensation policy on April 10th, 2013 for those residents who are not aware of the local improvement charge when they acquired their property and had not obtained tax certificates from the city, and whereas it is estimated that the changes in ownership where tax certificates were obtained represented about 1/3 of such property transfers, the total of property transfers being approximately 180, and whereas it is anticipated that in the balance of the property transfers, it had been anticipated that in most cases title insurance would be liable for payment of the outstanding local improvement charge. And whereas since the enactment of the dispensation policy, the information that has been made available to the city is that the title insurance purchased by the residents is not providing coverage for these local improvement special assessment charges. And whereas residents purchasing title insurance were following a practice that has become established within the real estate industry in Ottawa and should not thereby be prejudiced, and whereas staff have been advised a more appropriate date for commencement of the applicability of the dispensation policy is the date of approval of the work by council rather than the construction date, and that it would be appropriate for the dispensation policy not to apply for any transfer subsequent to the mailing of notices of court committee revision meetings, and whereas the estimated value of the special assessment charges for property transfers where no tax certificate was obtained and reliance was had on title insurance is $900,000, therefore be resolved that the dispensation policy enacted by council on April 10th be revised such that it provides the following. And the dispensation policy was already passed, so I'll just add the amendments, which is A, is that the amendment is really just B2, which is that a tax certificate was not requested and title insurance was obtained. So when council came forward with this, and ironically, I think the 3 members of committee of revision actually voted against this, but when council came forward with this back in April, the goal was to help out those who had been waiting for such a long time. I think the actually original motion was moved by Councillor Deans, and we missed something. We thought that we were capturing everyone under tax certificate. It became apparent through subsequent committee of revision meetings, specifically through the Navan Road local improvement, that we weren't catching the people we were trying to catch. We were trying to get address an issue, and we failed to address that issue. Adding title insurance to this dispensation policy addresses the issue as council intended to back in April.
Could we have that repeated, please?
Sorry, I didn't read that. I wish there was a Twitter version.
Okay, so, Councillor, if I could just ask staff, because this may be one of these items that we might want to refer back, because it is very complicated, and while I appreciate us going through the whole motion, I'm not entirely clear as to what the repercussions or implications are for the city. So I don't know if the city clerk or Mr. Mark would like to speak to this, and whether they would support one member of council moving this back to, most appropriately, FEDCO.
Mr. Mayor, I'll try to give the short version of this. As the resolution points out, or the recital clauses point out, there was approximately 180 property owners that purchased their property at some point after the local improvement process or charges had begun. As a result of that, council in April of this year said, if you sought a tax certificate from the city, which obviously would then have shown your due diligence as a purchasing owner, and the tax certificate did not indicate the local improvement charge, you were then exempt because under good faith you had tried to purchase the property and done your due diligence. At that point in time, Mr. Mayor, was shortly after that, and I believe it was in Ward 10, when a number of homeowners came up to us and said, we didn't seek a tax certificate, what we had was property insurance, title insurance. And we found out of the 180, approximately 70 had sought tax certificates, but there was 110 homeowners who had sought to purchase and had done so under the guise of title insurance. I've learned so much more about title insurance over the last few months, Mr. Mayor. The key factor in this case being 2 of the 4 title insurers, who are the main title insurers in North America, declined claims on this very issue, and the homeowners were pleased to share this with us. And the information we got from that was that the policies were limited to the fact that until the charge crystallized, and their version of when it crystallized was when it went to a court of revision, it was not covered by the title insurance. So, Mr. Mayor, and I know the city manager has indicated to me he wants to speak to this. Legally speaking, again, this is a public policy decision for council to make. We do have a legal opportunity to get all of those charges back, but I'll turn it over on the last part to the city manager.
Mr. Mayor, the city solicitors provided the overall context, but concluded with the legal answer, which is it is legally possible for the city to collect these charges. But I believe and agree with what Councillor Moffat concluded with, which is this recommendation is entirely consistent with the previous decision that Council made on this from a public policy perspective. The issue of due diligence, these people did have the insurance. It's a legal issue that in terms of the city's ability to collect that back from the insurance companies, we can't do that, but the due diligence was conducted by the property owners at the time. That's consistent with the basis with which you gave the exemption to those that had asked for the tax certificate. So I would recommend that this certainly has this motion has staff support.
Okay, so Councillor Blois on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Kirkpatrick, for that explanation. My question on the legal side of it is, the dispute with respect to the insurance, in effect, is that a dispute between the taxpayer and their insurance provider, or are we implicated?
No, Mr. Mayor, that would generally be between the homeowner and the insurance company.
But they're coming back to us and saying, here's the answer we got, and as a result of that answer, we're willing to sort of say that we either were remiss in not providing adequate information. I mean, if we're admitting some fault and liability here, then I would agree with the city manager. But if we're saying that we did everything that was legally required and maybe even ethically required of us, then it's a different situation.
Mr. Mayor, as your city solicitor, I won't comment on the ethical part, but with regards to the legal part, the concern that has been raised by residents who both saw tax certificates and those that had title insurance was what is described as the undue delay the city took in processing the charge, and they claim that had we processed it in a timely fashion, it would have been on the tax certificates and it would have been covered by their title insurance. So I think there is a legal concern from their perspective.
Now, I know this is the $1 million item here, but when we made a decision back in whatever that date was, there was already a financial impact there. Can you remind me how much that is costing the city?
The original was $1.1 million, and so this adds another $900,000, so $2 million.
Now, we've had other circumstances in the past, and if this wasn't being walked on, I could run the minutes by where we've had answers both from the city manager and the treasurer in other similar cases where the answer was, well, you know, maybe a mistake was made, but it's really not our mistake, and we're not willing to waive those fees. This seems to be quite a significant change from that, and is it because of the amounts involved now that they're far more significant, or the numbers that are involved? And I can run those, I can get those minutes for you and provide them offline, but I think you might remember the scenario. Like, this is a change. Basically, we're changing our position compared to what we've said previously and done previously.
Well, with respect, Mr. Mayor, I don't believe legal services is. Under these circumstances, we are still of the legal opinion that the city has a right to recover the amounts being suggested here, but the city manager has a different approach. And as I've indicated before, council does have the ability to establish public policy based on equity, among other things.
Thank you.
Councillor Shirelli, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I am going to move referral of this item to FEDCO, and my seconder is Councillor Eglai. We both have our law degrees and can't figure this out.
We can't hear you, Councillor.
Okay, I'm moving referral of this item, seconded by Councillor Eglai. We both have our law degrees and cannot figure this out.
All right. Thank you for that admission.
Can I withdraw the second?
Okay, so we have a motion of referral. Councillor Blais on referral, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I don't agree with referral on this for the simple reason is our city manager has indicated to us that this motion is completely consistent with council's current policy, which is because of the extreme delay in processing these local improvements, many people changed ownerships of the homes, and they did due diligence either through purchasing a tax certificate or purchasing title insurance, and this charge did not appear. So they're being penalized for their due diligence. That was the policy decision we tried to correct last year, was to not penalize them, brought forward by Councillor Deans, and I thought it was a very good move by Councillor Deans to try to do this. This is simply correcting an error in that first decision, and it's completely consistent with our current policy, and we should pass this today to give these people some certainty as they head through the Christmas season. They don't need a $20,000 or $30,000 charge hanging over their heads on Christmas morning. Thanks very much.
Okay, Councillor McRae on referral, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, on referral, are we allowed to ask staff clarification about time?
No,
I'll ask it, and if it's out of order, you'll let me know?
All right.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
But try to keep it brief so we can get back to referral.
Mr. Mayor, on referral to the city solicitor, Mr. O'Connor, is there any reason, legally speaking, that we should delay making a decision on this issue, or could? Will there be repercussions by voting for referral? Or to Mr. Mark?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Other than, okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so we have a motion to refer by Councillor Shirelli and Eglai. Be it resolved, the Moffat-Blais title insurance item be referred to FEDCO. Carried? Yeas and nays. All right, yeas and nays. It's a motion to refer.
Councillor Chernyshenko? Councillor Hume, Councillor Clark? Councillor Tierney?
Yes.
Siamonette?
No.
Councillor McRae?
No.
Councillor Deans?
No.
Councillor Harder?
No.
Councillor Hubley?
No.
Councillor Elshantiri?
No.
Councillor Holmes?
No.
Councillor Blois?
Yes.
Councillor Shirelli?
Yes.
Councillor Thompson?
No.
Conseiller Darache?
No.
Councillor Caudry?
No.
Councillor Moffat?
No.
Councillor Taylor?
No.
Conseiller Blais? No. Councillor Wilkinson? Councillor Fleury?
No.
Councillor Hobbs?
No.
Councillor Eglai?
Yes.
Mayor Watson?
No.
4 yeas, 17 nays.
Okay, on the main motion, carried. Yeas and nays have been called by Councillor Shirelli. Not having a good day on your votes. All right. Yeas and nays on the Moffat-Blais motion.
Councillor Chernyshenko? Councillor Hume? Councillor Clark?
Councillor?
What is the question we're voting on? It's the same motion, same yeas and nays?
No. Councillor, this is the Moffat-Blais motion. Referral was defeated.
Yeah.
You reverse the vote.
So I have to vote yes.
Okay, keep going, the roll call.
I didn't want to vote yes when I'd already voted no.
Councillor Tierney?
No.
Conseiller Manette?
Yes.
Councillor McRae?
Yes.
Councillor Deans?
Yes.
Councillor Harder?
Yes.
Councillor Hubley?
Yes.
Councillor Elshantiri?
Yes.
Councillor Holmes?
Yes.
Councillor Blois?
Yes.
Councillor Shirelli?
No.
Councillor Thompson?
Yes.
Conseiller Darache?
Wait.
Councillor Caudry?
Yes.
Councillor Moffat?
Yes.
Councillor Taylor?
Yes.
Councillor Blais?
Yes.
Councillor Wilkinson? Conseiller Fleury?
Wait.
Councillor Hobbs?
Yes.
Councillor Eglai?
No.
Mayor Watson.
Yes.
18 yeas, 3 nays.
Okay, are there other motions requiring suspension of the rules of procedure? I hope not. Councillor Moffat. Notice of the motion for consideration at subsequent meetings. Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Holmes. Councillor Clark, if you'd like to introduce the motion.
Yes, it's up on the screen. We have had issues surrounding lanes in New Edinburgh and Overbrook and in Centertown over the past. There are a lot of these lanes that have never been opened. They may have hydro easements through them. They certainly have trees in them. And there are a lot of people who have encroached on them, and that we've sold some of them piecemeal. In other words, it's a hodgepodge. And essentially, other municipalities in Ontario, Hamilton, Windsor, even London has one, but the municipality agrees to sell back such back lanes. Windsor did this a long time ago, and alleys to residential homeowners abutting them for nominal sums, because they're not really valuable to anybody else. Therefore, be it resolved that Council direct staff to prepare a report on the feasibility of a pilot project to offer such rear lanes for sale to abutting residential landowners for a nominal payment where the city has determined no prospect for the lane to serve a public purpose, and that the lanes in Overbrook between Prince Albert and Queen Mary Street be the focus of this report. Now, the rationale for that is that if we try to tackle them all at once, the problem becomes a very lengthy problem with no solution. So what I'm suggesting is that we put this notice forward and discuss it at the next council, and then we can talk about what's left to discuss in the lane policy.
Okay, so this is actually, Councillor Clark, a good example of a notice of motion where we're asking for a staff report at the next meeting, and we'll get some background from staff's perspective.
Yeah,
so,
staff prepared this, by the way.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a notice of motion. Are there any other notices of motion for consideration at subsequent meetings? No. Councillor El Shantiri, please, on going in camera.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And be it resolved that Council resolve in camera pursuant to subsection 13(1)(b), personal matters about identifiable individual, including staff, D, labor relations or employee negotiations, and F, the receiving of advice that are subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that pursuant to the procedures bylaw 2006-462 with respect to the city manager's employment contract. And it's on the screen.
Carried. Now, before, just to ask Councillor Deans, I think there's a special occasion happening today that we should mark. Councillor.
No, it's not my birthday. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to take a moment to mention that my longtime executive assistant, Beverly Munn, this is her last meeting of Ottawa City Council after 20 years in my office. And I think you all know that Bev has been a loyal, dedicated, and outstanding city employee. And she has served the city with distinction for 20 years. So I just wanted you to join me in wishing her all the best in her retirement.
When I heard that news, I said she's too young to retire, but congratulations, Bev, and thank you for your service. So on Councillor El Shantiri's motion, seconded by Councillor DeRush, carried. So we will go in camera now. It will take us a few minutes to ask people to leave, and we will resume the meeting in a few moments.